quién anda ahí. Es el Komander, es el Komander, un humilde luchador. Con 3 o 4 llaves ya te vence perdedor. Luchas a su familia, las dedica con amor. La Virgen de Guadalupe le da ya su bendición. Estaba humildemente para el Komander, para que guachen que le...
Hola mis amigos y amigas. Welcome to episodio 157 of Lucha Talk. And we are back for Lucha Talk. There's so much that's happened over the years. To be honest, it's been a long time. And I just wanted to start the show off a little bit just to say that the biggest reason we weren't around wasn't for any nefarious reasons, but just because the pandemic and stuff happened, but also just the airing schedule got so messed up and just weird that it took this whole time to kind of find a groove of sorts for us to come back. But I wanted to say to everybody, before we get into everything, I personally missed the show. To be honest, here is by far the most fun I have on any of the shows I do. It's always been that way, and I got no doubt that it'll stay the same. And I hope that we can make sure that that long of a wait will never, ever happen again. So I wanted to start off by saying a firm thank you from the bottom of my heart to those who waited for us. And now we're back. We already got some messages, too, from people when we announced it on Twitter that are coming back to listen again. So thank you so much. Things are still a little bit weird in terms of how Lucha's aired, and just my friends here that we're going to get into moving on to big things in their lives and doing many non-Lucha related things. So for now, the show is probably going to be more of a monthly type of show. Every month we'll be here for you covering Lucha and what happened, and we want to get back into a groove. And if all goes well, maybe we could do like special episodes for big shows like, TripleMania and Anniversario and so on. No promises, but no matter what, we'll figure things out, get ourselves back in gear. But Lucha Talk is back alive and well. And with all that said, joining me to talk Lucha once again after 2 years, he is back. He has been the longtime producer, and he is back again. I couldn't do it without him. We couldn't do it without him. Micro, the main man fever. It's so good to have you back and talk to you once again.
Oh man, it's good to be back and talking again about Lucha. I love it and excited to get the show going.
Absolutely. And the show, it wouldn't be the same without you, man. So I'm very happy to have you back on. It's been way, way too long. And I will say this behind the scenes for everybody out there. We are back in rare form. I mean, we talked for hours before we started recording on here about all kinds of things, Lucha, wrestling, and many, many other things. That's the kind of chemistry that I love, talking to these guys that, like I said, you guys are always my true friends, and the Lucha experiences that we all have will be shined through, and I can't wait to talk to the people too. When it comes to everybody else's, all the listeners out there, hopefully we can talk about how things are going in the world of Lucha, especially with AAA and CMLL. But I know there's another company, IWRG in Mexico, and when I want to talk about IWRG, there is only one expert that I could have turned to, one man who, as we are speaking right now, the Rey del Ring is back tonight, and I knew that we had to bring him back. Alfredo Esparza, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dylan. Great to be back with you and Micro. And at this moment, I am actually continuing to watch 2016 Rey del Ring. And as I turn, I see Anibal Jr. is entering the ring. Yeah, but it's great to be back. That's the reason I'm on here, just to talk about IWRG. I no longer watch anything else, just IWRG. It's my number one promotion to watch. I eat, sleep, drink IWRG, pretty much.
What about if they brought back Lucha del Barrio?
Well, I mean, obviously, then I ditched IWRG and watched Lucha del Barrio, because didn't they have Cherry in that promotion back then?
Absolutely, they did.
And Big Homie, bring him back. Yeah, gotta bring him back.
I love how we bring up these totally obscure memories that two people listening will know.
There's maybe like 5 people that know Lucha del Barrio.
Yes, exactly. But
none of them are listening.
Yes.
That's a great point, Mike.
Well, 3 of them are on the show. So.
Listen, we're drawing from a very limited audience.
We maybe have 2 others that are maybe, and they'll find out maybe like a year later when they finally realize the show's back on.
And that's true. Listen, this episode, I said it off the air. It's not like if you listen to the show before, this new version of Lucha Talk is going to be a little bit different than the ones before, I think.
Oh yeah. Well, the schedule of how the shows are airing now is so different. I mean, unless you're watching it, like if you have the time to watch it live, and pay for it, it makes sense. But like, being lucha people, we don't like to pay for anything, honestly. Like,
well, I wouldn't mind paying for it if we got what we paid for.
Oh yeah, and that's the other issue. Yeah, there are always technical issues. With CML, obviously the issue is that it's pretty much you have to see it live.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have the VOD option where, it would be so much better because, like, you could watch maybe an hour of the show, but then maybe something comes up and you have to go out or you have to go, like, go do something and suddenly you're out from watching the rest of the show. So pretty much you're done. So you have to wait till it actually airs, on TV and then they put it up on YouTube. That's when you watch it and,
Yeah, that's another issue. It's like, even with AAA, we were going to talk about that TripleMania show that happened a couple of weeks ago. It's like, they aired it, and then it's like a week later they also aired it on YouTube.
Yeah. So it's like, and then you paid for it, and then you could watch it later on for free. And it's like, okay, I could have just waited.
That's what I encourage the fans. If you guys, I encourage you to wait, not get suckered in. But it's up to you. Maybe if you're too hype for something, you gotta watch it straight up.
You got the Twitch guy though. The Twitch guy.
Good
There's
point.
ways.
Yeah.
You can find a feed for a Spanish TV channel that you've never heard of, and on these sketchy websites. And there's also like what AAA is doing. They're offering shows on Fight for like $30.
Oh, geez.
And that's kind of steep for a wrestling show right now, 2023. So I don't see them gaining like a lot of fans, wanting to pay to watch AAA, especially with the reputation it has in terms of like quality.
And you are like one of the top AAA fans. You always were back then. And I'm sure that hasn't changed. I'm sure your love has not gone down at all. Would you say, Micro, for AAA?
Well, love and hate are very closely bonded. So, just one little bit to either way, and you're in hate or, in love with something. But, AAA is just really down right now. I think, it's been trying to pick up again. I think they're trying to do that just to pull off these big shows that they're doing, these TripleManias.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those.
Overall, yeah, it's just been on the downfall, and
I think that they're kind of like an alternative wrestling company at this point. They're not, we don't need to watch them as a normal lucha company. I think they're more worried about like Lucha Titlan at this point.
Yeah, it's like, they don't really pay attention to their hometown fans and, the fans in Mexico, even though I think that they're really like the most recognized wrestling company there, AAA, over CMLL. Mm-hmm. They're on the bigger channels at the more stellar time slots, and more people are obviously going to get to see that more. And I guess it just looks better compared to CMLL. CMLL looks dated. They don't really like put much stock into like video graphic effects, audio, or how
only
it
the
looks on TV. They go wild with sponsors on CMLL.
I love how we're having this conversation. It feels like something we could have said 2 years ago.
Yeah.
on here.
For real.
I mean, what has really changed in Lucha? I mean, it's not that different. AAA has always had that issue with, kind of like, whenever they're dealing with it, even back when we were talking about it, when we were watching, they're always having that, the international promotion or whoever they're working with, the foreigners, that was like the focus. And their guys were always kind of like more, oh, yeah, they're here. They're part of the group.
They try to take like a shortcut to fame, and that's AAA's downfall. It's constantly being involved like outside promotions and people like, just people that it's going to give them buzz for time being. Yeah. And that's really where they've kicked like their own guys to the side in order to bring those people in and put them on the pedestal. And that's where I think they've lost some of the some of the prestige among the fans in Mexico and around the world. Like, what does AAA stand for? Well, it means like a place for an easy paycheck for a foreign guy to come in, not put in as much as, you know, one of their own. Mm-hmm. But, you know, you see that slowly, that culture slowly try to, you know, turn around for them. If you watched the most recent TripleMania, I think that sets a good example for what outside talent is going to be expected to bring in.
Yeah, that's true. And that is another thing that kind of changed over the years. They started adding all these extra TripleManias. You know, before it was always in August, right? They'd have the biggest show of the year. And then they started to do the baseball stadium one. I think that may have been the tail end of our first run. But,
the Monterrey one?
Yeah. And, but now they do multiple ones, and the latest one was from Monterrey, actually. And you were kind of mentioning the foreigners. I mean, the main event was like, they had like Swerve Strickland and Rich Swann was in the main event.
I mean, how did you feel when you heard those names be announced?
I just thought it was like really random, you know, like there's no build up to anything like for this. I think that's kind of hurt because, you know, on paper, Hijo del Vikingo, man, go back 5 years ago, when they were remember they had that contest or whatever to bring in new people and he was in it? Yeah, and when as soon as he came in, I was saying, and we were all saying like, man, this guy's the future of the company, the future of Lucha, unbelievable talent, blah, blah, blah. And he's won the title, but the title is so weird with how they book him that he's like less over as champion somehow. Like, you know, it feels like he hasn't gained any popularity from this title run. Then you bring in people like that. And I mean, I'm a fan of Swerve's, Strickland's and everything. And I thought that was like a good match, like the 4-way for the title. Komander was there too. But AAA, man, sometimes they'll bring in people and it feels like they're kind of like indebted to AEW or something like that. Not that dissimilar from maybe CMLL and New Japan in the past where, you know, they'll roll out the red carpet for their guys and then, you know, the CMLL guys doesn't get crap. That's kind of how it feels like with AAA sometimes with these AEW folks. And like Swann is like an Impact guy, right?
He is, and yeah, they both delivered in that main event. Like you were saying, you know, it's exactly the case. Vikingo and the title's not elevated him to that top star caliber that everyone's expecting from him and for AAA to give to him, you know, that type of avenue for everyone to see.
Yeah, and we've seen that I totally agree with what you said actually about them taking like shortcuts to fame and stuff like that. I mean, look no further. We're bringing back something away from TripleMania, but I'll bring it up because it was supposed to be there. That Adrian Marcelo deal with Chessman.
Oh, yeah. Right, yeah. The supposed famous influencer, but nobody outside of, you know, one city knows who he is.
Well, they tried something different, and it totally blew up in their face pretty much there, and it didn't work out, and he's whining on Twitter and all these places about how nobody likes him or something like that. But, you know, that's another case where you could build a certain thing. It's like another Copa TripleMania here. There was a cage match on the show. It led to a mask match. I was reading, shout out Cubs fan as always. While we were away, Cubs was always covering Lucha Libre, doing his thing as he is. He's one of the best, as always. But, you know, you bring us here, then you hear about this mask match they had on very little build up, pretty much with Mrs. and, Argenis. And it's like, Argenis is pissed now that he lost the mask. It's just a weird company, overall, you could say, but that's not that new. What do you think about the Guerra de Rivalidades, you know, tournament they had? Basically the rivals coming together, the losers advance, and then they're gonna meet up in a Puestas match at the end.
Let's get Fredo's opinion on that.
To me, that thing constantly, just feels kind of repetitive. To me, I'm not a big fan of that stuff. I think they should have done something a little different, because they did that last year but it's, you know, obviously a little different, but it's like, they should have come up with like a main event for every single show and not worry about that tournament. I get tired of those tournaments, honestly.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'm not really, because you already know like it's going to be some I don't know. I just kind of, I'm not really into the whole rivalry tag team tournament running type of thing. And did somebody get hurt out of that initially and got out of that tournament? You know, cause it's always like, there's always somebody that always ends up missing out. Yeah, Pagano. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Pagano was out of it. Well, he was doing the Rush, right? Like, what's their rivalry?
I don't know. That was random.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just kind of thought, I mean, they replaced him with Park, right? So it's like, at least Park and him have a, that's definitely a rivalry, but even that, it's like, been there, done that.
That's the problem with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, I think the way that it's run, and it's not just the AAA, it's the whole mentality that people book nowadays. It's like, the way they run shows, like, your main event should be like a really, really good match. And just go with that. Like, if it's Hijo del Vikingo versus Kenny Omega, that should be your main event. Figure out the rest of the stuff. I get you want a mask match, but like, I'm not sure about like this. I'm not a big fan of the whole, tournament. Doing it every year is kind of a little bit, cause I mean, they did a little differently last year, but it's like, I was hoping for something a little different this year. Hopefully they do a Copa TripleMania where they add everybody. They bring back all the legends.
Well, are you telling me you weren't hyped for, Toscano getting the win in the Copa TripleMania on this show?
Was it Regia versus Mexico City or something like that? And it was like,
Chilango, yeah.
Yeah, like they had
Negro Casas was in that.
Toscano was leading Team Monterrey in 2023. I'm like, really? You can't
Yeah,
like, we just saw CMLL come up like a bunch of guys from different regions, young guys. Granted, you don't want to like, you're not going to bring in all these new guys, but at least do something a little like, something similar, like have one old guy in there, but make sure he has like a cool group of guys that you want to introduce to the fan base, you know, like some new blood in the promotion, but you know, that wasn't the intention though, obviously.
No, but, shots fired, you know, at the, Rivalidades tournament, but, it's okay.
But the thing that I'm most impressed is like Nero Casas just randomly deciding to jump to see a AAA.
And Dallas.
And Dallas, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, to be fair, Dallas leaving was a big plus for CMLL.
Yeah, addition by subtraction.
Yeah, and Casas, you know, honestly, I mean, he's way older now. I mean, the reaction to him leaving, like, I think, to me, it's just him trying to, like, fulfill a dream or something like, you know, but get something off his bucket list, you know, I got to work with AAA and team up with Psycho Clown, my son-in-law. It's not like this big thing where it was like, oh, it's going to hurt CMLL. I don't know if it's really going to help AAA that much either.
Not with how they use them.
Yeah, I know. It's like, but you know, at this stage in his career, it's not like he's going to make this big difference in the promotion. I mean, if they would have brought him in like 10 years ago, maybe he was still a big deal, but it's like right now, like, it's like he's 62, 63 years old now. It's like, I don't really see the big, he's not going to move the needle. Move that needle, even the slightest, just because he's not the big solution for the promotion. The promotion needs to like change the way they're like Michael was saying, like they focus so much on the foreigners and everything that they need to start like doing what they gotta start building up their own guys, and I don't think they're never going to do that. I mean, because, you know, they've had Psycho Clown for how long, and I mean, even now it's like he's always been like the biggest star there, but it's like even now it's kind of like, to me, it kind of feels like it's Psycho Clown.
And what were you going to say, Micro, about Casas? I was interested in what you wanted to jump in and say.
Yeah, I think he still has something to offer them, and AAA can still get a lot out of him right now. I mean, you see what they do with Viano, and they managed to get out of him, and that pretty much, you know, I think that's going to be a classic that people are going to remember for a long time. Pentagon Jr.'s big crowning moment. And I think with Negro Casas, I think you can do a similar thing, and I think even more because he's a bigger name. He has
he's way better than Viano 4 too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like when you compare them, like where they are in their career.
Yeah.
Negro Casas is just, one of the few icons that are in wrestling right now.
But I think with Casas though, he was a big deal in Mexico City. That's where he was really like the peak, like being Arena Mexico's main guy. I mean, he really wasn't like he wasn't the big star. Like, you know, Tijuana, obviously he was kind of like the hot name when he was younger. But he's been in CMLL for so long that it's kind of going to be harder to like, I mean, they have enough where they could actually build him up, like depending on who they build him up against.
Yeah, I mean, let me ask you this, Fredo. Who do you see more in another guy that was on the show that was in the tag match with Parker Rush. Who has more to offer AAA, Negro Casas or Diamante Azul?
Well, definitely Negro Casas.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Diamante Azul. But, the thing is, he has a mask. If they could ever figure out, drop a mask, that's going to be far more valuable than, Casas dropping his hair again, because he's done it so many times. His ego's
so big, he'll never drop that thing.
Yeah, so it's but if they could ever pull that off, it would make sense, but it'd be a bigger deal just because, it's a mask being dropped. But, I don't know, it's to me, I think it helps AAA in some aspects, because also, Casas is a great ambassador for promotion if they need somebody to promote he's been around for so long, a legend. But I don't know, to me, I don't know if he's going to move the needle that much. There's a huge difference from somebody dropping a mask to just showing up, having a hair match or having a good match with somebody. I don't think it'd be hard for me to see him having the same matches he had with Volador Jr. He was practically killing himself half the time in those matches.
With Dragon Lee,
another guy practically killed. It's hard because he had a lot of concussions back then also. So he's a lot older now too. I'd be worried if he was in there with Hijo del Vikingo and trying to catch him all the time. But he's gonna try it though. He's gonna try it. He's crazy. He'll try it, and he'll pull it off.
They don't know what to do with him, and that's why he's kind of just stuck in this coach role.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. This TripleMania, I thought it was kind of good by the end. I kind of talk trash about Diamante Azul because he sucks so much, but his match was actually pretty good on here with him and Blue Demon Jr. versus Park and Rush. And they had a wild brawl. It was really good. The main event was really good. You had a mass match on the show, even though it was super random and there's a lot of run-ins and stuff like that. But it was a AAA style match, so it kind of depends.
Yeah.
The show was pretty solid, for a TripleMania. You got some big things, and they're going to follow it up with another one in July. They already announced a couple of matches. We were kind of talking about them a little bit. You mentioned it, Fredo, the Kenny Omega versus Hijo del Vikingo match.
Finally happening.
July 15th, after they already did it in AEW first, on there. Very well received match though. A lot of people really liked it.
I would be curious to see how people in Tijuana react to Casas, because that's the other city it was a big deal in, so maybe that's where they should do something with him there. I mean,
they're doing a Copa TripleMania, of course.
Oh, yeah.
With team Tijuana and team Mexico City, and he's feuding with Nicho, Psychosis. They're gonna lead teams against each other, so it'll probably be a 5-on-5 type of match there. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of juice in Psychosis, Nicho versus Negro. That's not what I would do if I was AAA.
That would have been a hell of a match back in 2000.
yeah, 25 years ago, man. Whoa.
1999. I think they might have had a match in 1999.
He must have been coming off of WCW and Promo Azteca and all that. Yeah. There, and then you have the semifinals of the Rivalidades tournament where you had Sam Adonis and Psycho Clown versus Rush and LA Park. Almost guaranteed that Adonis and Psycho Clown are gonna lose.
Yeah.
The team that loses will have the hair or mask match at the big TripleMania, the one in Mexico City. So at least there's some build up to it, even though, like you said, they kind of did a similar thing before. I like that at least they're trying to make a build up. I just don't know if there's a lot of juice in Adonis and Psycho.
They're not getting beyond 04 in this.
Yeah, I mean, that was an unbelievable performance.
Yeah.
That it all paid off with. But I mean, it had a horrible tournament that led up to the finals to on top of it. So, Micro, what do you think of this little announcing these things already? Kind of shows what their A stories are that they are kind of wanting to focus on. What do you think of what they're doing for the next one in Tijuana?
I think you're on the right track with Adonis and Psycho Clown losing the match and going on do the mask hair and CDMX on that TripleMania. And Adonis to me never really came off as a big star or as someone that's a big threat to Psycho Clown. As much as they want him to, come off as that and win and beat Psycho Clown and bloody him up, Adonis to me just doesn't have it to be the main Rudo or one of the top Rudos.
I think they want him to be like Fabuloso Blondie, this generation's Fabuloso Blondie.
Yeah, AAA always, ends up going back and recycling things and that's where it's like another one of their downfalls and they just keep going back to the same idea. that at least that they're gonna finish this rivalry up here with Psycho Clown and Adonis. I hope, like, I hope like that's it for Adonis, but I think he's gonna stick around as one of the main guys for AAA, just because they like working with guys that are easy to manage, and they take orders, and he does everything they want. So I think they're gonna keep him around, and he wants to stay around. I don't think he's someone that other places are really like demanding for, but in the rare case that it's LA Park and Roosh going on doing the mask hair match, I think that's guaranteed success for AAA, and it's going to be like a huge event. I think, to me, like, there's no chance that happens, as a result of some random tournament that they're doing, all of a sudden. Park coming in as an alternate, pretty much. No chance. I think LA Park's going to hold out for a lot more money. Whatever they're offering, he's going to want triple.
True. And Tony Khan will not allow Roosh to lose.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about Adonis, that was one of CMLL's best booking of like a really lame time in their history. They got maximum worth out of him at that moment of time with the hair matches against Blue Panther and Negro Casas. Both of those worked so well.
But that's the weird thing about CMLL. They always get weird. They do really well booking like the foreigners, like guys you don't really think would be that interesting. They somehow figure out like something good for them, and it's like, okay, he's not that.
And that
he's not that great. Yeah, he's not that great, but it's like, oh, they did something pretty decent with him.
He held his own charismatically. Like, he made it work. Remember when he came in with the Love Machine stuff on the Blue Panther match? Like,
I think he did better in CMLL than some of the stuff I've seen him do in AAA. It's like,
And that gimmick, that was like a total moment in time, like with the Trump stuff.
Like, it worked. It worked at that time. Now he can't do that because, it's obviously, it's already been done. Yeah, it's already been done.
Yeah.
He's not around right now. He could do it later on again. Hopefully not.
Maybe. But like I said, I think that they were able to, that's the kind of guy he is, but it's almost like a throwback character, because that's how it was back in the old days, right? Fredo, I know you know this, where somebody could do a big program or things like that, and then they'll just leave, like they've served their purpose and they'll leave the territory.
Yeah, but, I mean, where does he go? Like,
nowhere.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he either sticks with AAA or he becomes like an indie guy, like just works independent shows, which I don't see him like being somebody that people are going to be on. Like, I think his thing is like he could probably end up being like the middleman of bringing in foreign talent. So he'll probably get booked. Like Okumura. Like if you see like people bringing Lucha CMLL talent to the U.S., you'll see like, hey, it's Soberano Jr., Averno, and Okumura. But you got to bring in Okumura because he's probably the guy that got you those two other guys, or the referee. Like, you bring in that guy. So it's like he could be that type of guy. Like, okay, like works indie shows, but he's just the other guy that's there, and maybe he becomes the world champion of that little indie promotion. But I don't really see him like being somebody that other promotions are going to be going. Well, unless it's Noah promotion like that, that's just bringing in random guy. All Japan. Remember when All Japan had that little like
they brought him in.
They did, right? He was there recently.
He was at Champion Carnival one year. See, so.
He does have some possibilities. Let's just redo this whole thing and talk about Sam Adonis opportunities out there.
Well, I mean, Micro, I'll throw it to you. Where do you think he fits in better, AEW or WWE?
Well, if he gets to do the Trump thing, then WWE.
Oh, mega push.
Yeah, superstar push.
I mean, there's so many people in those promotions and they have so many shows. I mean, why not? Honestly, like,
I've seen AEW's roster. They have like 200 people or something.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like one more guy. Like,
they might sign Fredo.
They might. Hey, if they pay me what they're paying them, I'll quit my job.
There you go. That's what this whole show is actually a psyop. We're trying to get signed by AEW. Yeah, we're hoping to get some hits. Yeah, I got to expose us right now. But I mean, that may be Sam Adonis' plan in AAA. He might be trying to network, talk to Swerve and these. Maybe remember FTR was in AAA. Omega's coming. You've got opportunities to talk to people.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's how you get your next opportunity in wrestling. You don't just stay in one place. You want to move on. You know, AAA is not I don't think that's his end game, like being there forever. So he's obviously going to want to be somewhere in the U.S. at some point.
Okay, let me ask. I'll throw it to you one more time. One more thing on Adonis, Mike Grove. Who would have more upside, Sam Adonis or AAA legend Kevin Cross?
Upside. I think Kevin Cross, or I don't know what name he uses.
Killer Cross, isn't it? Or Karrion Cross. No?
Yeah, Karrion Cross. I think he's got some potential doing like Japanese wrestling, because that's his style. That's more of his style. It leans more towards that kind of high impact type of wrestling. And, you know, he doesn't have too much personality. I think, you know.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't have that.
So I think he'd be more successful there.
Okay.
Or at least has more upside between the two. Because Adonis, there's a lot of guys that do similar character and have done it before, and guys that are around that do what he does.
I see. Well, you know, they're building to a big match with him and Psycho for the Mexico City TripleMania, building it to new things coming forward. Omega and Hijo del Vikingo, rematch of a great match in AEW. We'll have to see how it plays out, but AAA has done stuff. Things are a little different now. Maybe not for the better, some would say, but they are a company that does many, many things overall. You know, Micro, what have you been, we were talking about it off the air. What did you want to talk about with the WWE stuff, since we brought it up with Conan and all that?
Right. Yeah, I wanted to touch on all these luchadors coming over to the U.S. and signing with WWE and AEW. Like, that's a big deal to me. Like, especially when you see the caliber of talent that's leaving and getting signed. They're pretty much like the top guys, or, you know, future top guys. Dragon Lee signed with WWE. That's a move that a lot of people were calling, and me included. I thought they were gonna come for Dragon Lee like right away, like within 2 years of his debut. You know, I saw big potential in him, and yeah, he just, you know, didn't go so smoothly for Dragon Lee, leading up to now, because there's a big chunk of time where he was just doing nothing and, you know, exiled from New Japan pretty much, and limbo between them and CMLL and then AAA. So
Ring of Honor closed down during all of this. They were using all Lucha guys,
and, you know, Ring of Honor's decision to side with the guys that they're using over CMLL. So WWE signed Dragon Lee. It's huge news. Did you guys think that Dragon Lee was going to go for AEW?
Me personally, I think that the rumor is maybe he would have, but Andrade told him to stay the hell away from there. But you know, I mean, you would think that with his brother there, but I don't think it's a bad move though. You know, like and they used him pretty well when he went to NXT. They treated him like a big name, like that they brought in like a superstar indie guy, like pretty much coming in. They haven't had that in a while. That company's so in flux with the ownership and things like that. You know, you never know what could happen. I think any company, if they were smart, would want to sign somebody like him, because he could get over right away. You know, you just give him one match. He's got a great look. I mean, like super in shape, muscular. You know, can get over with the ladies, the guys. Like, he's the type of top tier talent that you love, even though, like you said, it's kind of a shame, because I remember when he came in with like In Busca de un Ídolo, this guy was like a superstar right away. And then obviously the stuff with Kamatachi and you know, Hiromu and all of that. And then it's just like he never really fulfilled his potential, for all of those weird reasons that are just wrestling stuff, pretty much. But now hopefully he get a shot. I think he's a guy that could stand out, but I mean, with the company being how it is with people, nobody knows who's in charge anymore. It's like becoming like WCW, where nobody knows what's going on week to week, by the end. So hopefully he can get a good shot, but he's a wonderful talent, and AEW missed the boat, even if it is Andrade being a sleeper agent, trying to tell him to go away. What do you think, Fredo?
Well, I mean, for me, it's like, I think everybody thought Dragon Lee was going to leave years ago. And like Mike was said, I mean, he, you know, what was it? He took that PWG gig and lost his CMLL job. That pretty much, you know, for whatever reason, like, he's only done a handful of appearances with AAA, and it's never really like, I'm kind of surprised, because I kind of thought maybe he felt the same way Dralistico did about the whole family sticking together and doing stuff. But you know, at the same time, Dragon Lee's always been kind of more, business oriented. He kind of had more like a passion towards wrestling. We'd see him constantly showing up for his shows. Him being actually disappointed that CML let him go, and he showing up. He loved going to Informa, which just tells you how fucking weird he could be about wrestling. Whereas Dralistico is going to Acapulco and not really going to wrestling and all this stuff.
He's watching F1. He doesn't have time.
Yeah, it's like you could kind of see that Dragon was trying to figure out what was the better opportunity with or without his family. And, he went to WWE, which seems to be like that's really even though AEW is around, that's still everybody's dream to wrestle in WWE. And, he's young. He might as well do it. If it doesn't work out, he's still young enough where he could go somewhere else at some point if he's dissatisfied. But I think he's going to do fine. It took him a long time because like Michael said, they were going to bring, everybody just assumed he was going to go right away. As soon as that series with Kamitachi was coming to an end, it kind of seemed like, okay, next stop is going to be New Japan for maybe a year or a couple of months, and then WWE's going to notice and they're going to take him. And no, it took them a couple of years for them to finally figure out to bring him in. But I think he'll do well. I think I don't know if he's going to be like he kind of fits more of the high flying type of guy that's going to do his thing. I don't think we're going to be expecting him to be like, Hijo del Fantasma, what he's been able to do as, in that promotion because he speaks English, or anybody like Rey Mysterio or anybody like that. He's basically going to be.
And to me, Fredo, not to cut you off, I just want to say one thing that he stands out more in WWE. If he went to AEW, they just brought in Komander, they've got all these different guys that do the crazy high flying stuff.
Yeah. So, and that's what you need, because they don't have anybody like that right now. They have the guys, obviously they're all, different, nationalities on that, but they don't have the luchador that can actually be the crazy guy. And, Dragon Lee, that's the one thing we do know. He could be a pretty wild guy in the ring. And it's not wild like, oh, he's reckless, more like in control that he could do stuff. He could be a little bit reckless at times too. Like, I'm not going to say he's not. We've seen a few incidents where he's kind of hurt some people, but, it's not, you need somebody like that. You do need somebody that's a little bit just, on the edge, just because that's a cool character to have in your promotion.
Yeah, and NXT got a big introduction there, and they treat him like a big deal. All these videos and setting him up right away with the Carmelo Hayes, and he's like the current champion there. So they see big things for Dragon Lee. And I think the fans are going to support him, and eventually he's going to move up to, get on one of the main shows. Yet to be seen what they do with the LWO that they brought back, and what they're doing with Hijo del Fantasma. He's kind of been like more of a background character recently, and ever since going up, hasn't had the same amount of time in the spotlight that he had in NXT. And I think maybe primarily due to his size and, the size difference and, with Vince McMahon, still having say in what goes on, you don't see as bright of a future for smaller guys.
Fredo, what do you think about them bringing the LWO back?
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, what? Like, it wasn't even that big a deal when it happened,
I know, right?
I get it because Eddie Guerrero was the leader of that, but it just seems like, and I think there's a, when we saw it, it was kind of just like a more of a comedy type of thing and wasn't really like, it had potential of something that could be cool, but, I just didn't see like the way WCW used it wasn't even done that way. It was more of a comedy thing. And I was surprised they brought it back, but they're always going to bring stuff back from the past that they think was cool.
And it's been a huge merchandise seller. I mean, that's throwing crazy. Like,
and it would have been back in the day also for WCW. They actually were smart about that stuff.
Yeah, but they're read by idiots, so they.
Yeah. So it's like you totally get that it will work, especially nowadays with the whole. There's more acceptance to different cultures and all that. Like, you have a fan base that is very Latino and they're going to buy all this merchandise and stuff. So it's like, you're going to make that money. But, I just thought it was so weird that they brought it back. What is it? Almost 25, 30 years later. It's like,
this random 5-month angle in WCW. Yeah. They brought it back. And it features, Latino DJZ.
It was wild. And it's cool, like I remember when the LWO was happening, I thought it was cool, like, cause it gave Eddie Guerrero something to do and gave the luchador something to do, but, it pretty much very quickly, it was going to be it was going to be over with very soon just because, WCW just saw it more as a comedy thing than anything else.
But I love the group though. I mean,
yeah.
The one right now, I think that is a great faction. I mean, you've got like Joaquin Wilde, DJZ, even though again, he's not really Mexican or like he's Filipino, but whatever. Like I said, he
loves lucha.
Yeah. Oh, great talent. I've always been a fan of his wrestling. And he had that, bad injury in Mexico, remember, where his life was in danger, at the time. So he probably does have a lot of love. Shout out to Joaquin Wilde, great wrestler. But Cruz del Toro, one of my favorites, Ronnie Mendoza. That was the one thing I couldn't believe because they did this whole deal with Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio, his son, and then Rey brought back the LWO to fight his faction, and then it's like, out of all things I never would have imagined, it's like Jinzo is getting a WrestleMania moment that you couldn't believe, but it happened, and they did the thing last night, the Backlash in Puerto Rico, where Carlito's in the LWO now suddenly, but got a huge pop like in San Juan, so amazing stuff there overall, and I think that with that, hopefully, somebody has to be smart enough to see this LWO thing, like top merchandise seller, super over every week. It's like guys who are doing nothing now, like Del Toro and Wild are getting huge pops. Zelina Vega's in a big spot. Like somebody needs to see this and be like, damn, maybe we could do more with the luchadors or the Latino wrestlers that they have, because they do have a good mix of them.
30 years of talking about maybe they'll do more with luchadors.
I've never given up, Fredo.
I think everybody has been saying that for like the longest time, and they haven't done shit.
Micro, what do you think AEW's done with their luchador group? We've only had 5 years to complain about them. 4 years.
I don't think they've done much.
True.
They've really let them just die off, and I mean, I don't see anyone really talking about them or demanding more of them every week. They signed Komander, and that's kind of like, for me, definitely someone that they've just like saw and they're like, we have to have him. That type of sighting. I don't really think that they've been following him, since, he's been wrestling, near the border, for years on his own. I think they just saw the spot and then they're like, wow, we have to have that on our show. Which is to me like, a shame, because he's actually like a good wrestler. He's more than that, than just walking on the ropes. He's really good, on the mat as well. He can do everything, but, they deduce their luchadors there to, just be like, I don't want to say like just be the stereotype, but they kind of just, just do themselves.
It's almost like no character at all, practically.
They don't really pay much attention to anyone outside of like who they already focus on or they want to, stand out.
Yeah, for the Lucha guys, it's tough because they probably did feel that exact way. I saw the video on Twitter. He was crying and super emotional. Had kind of great promo. And then it's like, you play that video on Twitter and you don't do anything. And then it's like he disappears for the next month or whatever. And suddenly he's like the setup guy for Jay White. Like next thing we see, it's like, wait a minute, what? Like this guy felt like a huge deal. And now you're putting him on the bench. It's the same thing. Remember Roosh earlier this year? Roosh and Bryan Danielson had one of the absolute best matches of the whole year. And then it's like he's disappeared for 4 months, outside of like a Ring of Honor match that they had him in or whatever. And it's like, let these guys get some momentum, man. Like you see the talent. I mean, they do, I will say this, the Lucha Brothers with, Pac, they have given them a pretty decent amount of time, although not lately, because I think, Pac's had visa issues again. But they've given them chances. They're like the Ring of Honor champions, which Ring of Honor and AEW is basically like AEW. like more or less, with how they do it. Their rosters are kind of the same. So they've given them some, that's the one thing I'll say to contradict you, Micro, is that they've given the Lucha Brothers a fair share, I would say. But even then, only by their own standards, which not a lot of people get a great share.
I mean, like, you see what they do with Roosh. He gets wins, but they're on like Dark and Elevation against nobodies.
Yeah, nobody cares about that.
They bring him on Wednesday to lose pretty much, and then nothing happens with him. So Yeah, it's just like they're overpopulated and they have their own agenda and they stick to it.
Well, remember when Rush tried to shoot his own angle when he told MJF that he was coming for the title in Spanish in the backstage segment building up to that Bryan Danielson match?
Right, yeah. I mean, I think that's like the only way to get anything done there. Like, do your own thing.
Yeah, you have to take matters into your own hands. Yep. Pretty much there. But yeah, I loved Rush in that match versus Bryan Danielson. If nobody watched that, they need to go back and find it because it was like so good. Bryan Danielson, he's like, I'm still waiting for his match with Blue Panther. So, unfortunately, that's the only negative for him pretty much.
But you don't think that that's ever going to happen, right? Where AEW and CMLL mix.
Yeah, if it didn't happen.
Maybe if like AAA sells the company or something. Like that, it goes out of business and like they have to have CMLL as a lucha base. That's like the only possible way. I guess we could talk about CMLL a little bit, too here. They had been building up some stuff. The year's actually honestly been pretty interesting. The only problem is what we kind of said at the start was like, you have to wait 2 weeks for their shows to air or you roll the dice on Ticketmaster, which is, taking out many a man's paycheck and not giving it back, so to speak. But they've done a lot of cool things. We were kind of talking off the air about some of them. I'd say the main story that they actually built to, again, it was nice that they actually had a long-term deal. Because we've seen times in the past where it's like, even like well-remembered legendary matches. Like remember like Sombra and Atlantis, like at Anniversario that year? It's like that happened 1 month out and it was like the most random build ever. And they had an amazing match, but there wasn't a lot to it. Here they actually gave it some time to grow, like the feud with Rocky Romero and Volador Jr. They were doing stuff even on like the New Japan shows they did. They were feuding there. They did a great job. And they unfortunately messed it up because they involved Angel de Oro and Oraculo they did this like 4-way deal at Dos Leyendas, which was a good show, but you knew that they were just wasting time with Angel de Oro and Oraculo. I remember Tubbs was writing about it. He was like, if this doesn't end with Romero getting his head shaved, this whole thing's a waste of time and waste of everybody's money out there. And they did actually do the right thing at the end. And that's kind of led into what they're doing now. And that led right into the Universal tournament, which seems to set up some stuff going in there. And I liked a lot of what they did all throughout April. That stuff's easy to watch. Now you can just go on their YouTube page. Like I said, it's all uploaded for free.
Yeah, I think the Rocky Romero Volador build is pretty much like the best that CML has done this year between two people.
Oh, for sure. And I like I said, I think it's better than most of the stuff they've done in years past even. Like,
I think Rocky has to get like a lot of the credit for that too.
Agree. Totally agree. I mean,
you see them do like different ideas that they've never done before. Rocky, he comes out with a cake to sing happy birthday to Volador.
Yeah.
Then he shoves it in his face and, Rocky goes on to create like this music video and song.
Yeah,
called Volador's son. I mean, just like a bunch of stuff that, it's kind of like old wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
Brings that into CMLL. And I hope like other guys took notice and learned from him because, they could use it.
They always go back and forth too in CMLL with like doing cool vignettes and things like that. And then they won't do them for like a year. Like, or something like that. They're the kings of doing that pretty much.
Well,
but yeah.
Well, even the matches themselves, sometimes they'll have like a really cool concept and they'll just get rid of it for a few years. And then you're like, well, I guess we're not going to see this again.
Yeah. I mean, that is true. To be honest. But.
I mean, remember they invented that 4-way match and then they took a while to bring it back again.
That is true. But they'll bring back a cage match though.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they won't let that slide.
Oh, they bring that every year at the end of the year. So.
Yeah.
Twice. Don't they twice a year? Because the women have one also, or the men?
Yeah, and then like the mid-carders too.
Yeah, and then I think they have one in Puebla also with a different group of guys. I think the only show you could watch actually live is Guadalajara right now, isn't it? Like
it is. Yes. I see them.
Oh no, the Tuesday shows, both of the
Tuesdays and I think Sundays too.
Yeah, the Tuesday shows
Tuesday's the hot show.
The Guadalajara one or the Mexico City?
Tuesday, yeah.
Both of them?
Guadalajara.
Yeah, Guadalajara is like, they've had some pretty fun shows. I've seen a few of them before I started like totally ignoring wrestling for a bit. But yeah, like, I like a lot of the talent that they started bringing in from all those different areas, like especially Guadalajara, they have a lot of talent that, they just kept there for so long. Zandoken Jr., that trio, the Explosivo, Fantástico, Adrenalina.
Oh yeah, those guys are so good.
Yeah, some of the Rudos that they have over there are really good. Unfortunately, they don't have them full time over here. And, to be fair, also, if they were full time, maybe we would like burn out on them and we'd end up, they'd end up just getting lazy or whatever. But they don't look, they look pretty good every time I've seen them that they brought them in. And most of the time I saw them in Guadalajara, but once they started coming over here into Mexico City, I kind of thought they were like making a little bit of a, there was a little bit of a shift in how, there was better matched quality, although, to be fair, like those Sunday and Saturday and Tuesday lineups, they still look like they're really suspect, you're just looking at like, do I really have to watch Dark Magic, Akuma, and, oh, it's not Espanto Jr. this week, it's Cholo in the match. They mix it up a little bit, but still the same stuff. Or Leono suddenly in the second match or third match in the card, and you're like, oh.
I don't know, man. Pegaso's pretty good.
Pegaso, I mean, I like him sometimes. That 450 splash of his, he's gotta change that up a bit.
He was great, like, in AAA, like,
years ago. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, like, he just kind of like, injuries, age, kind of just wore him out. Rey Cometa's at a whole different level to him.
Yeah, but is he a different level to Bahia Blanca?
Mini Volador?
Rey Cometa's way better than Bahia Blanca.
Well, that is true. Yeah. Low bar to clear, but definitely true.
That's the group. Whatever happened to that group? That group was supposed to getting like the big thing. You would have thought they would have been like one of the schools. That would have been funny. They had like, here's the fourth school. It's Volador Junior's guys.
It's like, hey, it's Bahia Blanca, it's Magnus is there, Diamond.
Diamond's back.
Yeah.
All these 35-year-old rookies.
Yeah. Now this is the CMLL we always knew.
They did that whole thing with the school thing. They did it in Puebla. I think not Puebla, in Guadalajara. Like, what was it, last year, I think, was when they first started doing it, or even before that, when they started bringing Querétaro versus Guadalajara for a bit. And then I think Angel Rebelde ended up, suddenly he became a Guadalajara guy because they kept him. But you had like all these really cool concepts that were happening in Guadalajara, and suddenly now you're getting it in Mexico City because it's so different. Like, you don't really get the same stuff that you get in Guadalajara. Will do some really interesting creative booking that you don't see in CML's, the other places. And now you finally got the schools showing up there, and it's like, wow, that's kind of cool. It kind of felt like an IWRG ripoff. Because remember, IWRG's been doing the...
Yeah, it totally is.
They've been doing the school thing for so long. The only difference is that it kind of felt like CML was a little more picky on who they were going to have. Like, not that they were all great, but they were a little more picky of like, hey, let's have like somebody that's really, really good in this thing.
But for the Mexico City school, they actually brought in people from IWRG, and then on Informa, they interviewed them all. But Virus was there too. And they asked Virus, he's like, who do you see from this school bunch that really stands out? He's like, I'm not familiar with any of these guys. We're just going to start training tonight is our first practice. So that goes to show you, what kind of scouting they do.
Yeah, you would have thought they had their own guys. Like, they would have these 3 or 4 guys from their school finally move up into the Mexico City group. Because you had the Puebla, like Guadalajara was definitely Guadalajara, and Puebla too, and also the Laguna guys. They were all people that were from those regions, but the Mexico City was like, oh, come on. Like, these guys aren't CMLL trained guys. We all know they have a school and stuff, but they didn't use those guys. But they brought in Tonali, which was he's a good talent.
What did Virus think of Max Star? That honestly was like super cool though, when they did it. That was at the start of like March.
Yeah.
They had the big, like, Guadalajara. They had all the cool guys there, like, Adrenalina and Explosivo and Ana Rebelde and all that.
Vaquero.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, he was there.
They could have brought in Javier Cruz Jr. or any of those guys that we would have been like, oh, these guys are different.
Yeah, and there's this one guy, he's like really jacked, and he's from Guadalajara, and they're really high on him. I think his name is Crixus or something like that.
Yeah, Crixus, yeah.
They love that guy. He's gonna be like the next Diamante Azul.
Hey, and it's probably gonna happen. Like, we'll see a video of him like posing and stuff.
Oh man, they've been needing a new one ever since Demon's left.
Yeah.
But that all led to the Universal Tournament, and I know that's something you've always loved, Fredo. The Universal Tournament. I mean, if there's one company where the belts matter the most, I think you think of CMLL first.
Of course. How many people were in this Universal Tournament? 38? Just kidding.
Well, they did it weird, like, cause they had like 2 Torneos Cibernéticos, and then one was like a triple threat match. Like that was
the NWA historic guys.
Yeah, so it's like, they did that, and Rocky was in that, and Mystico was in that, but then, Atlantis Jr. advanced. That was like a good match. Honestly, like, all the preview matches was actually like well worth watching. To be honest, they were all good. It basically set up the final, which ended up being Dragon Rojo Jr. and Templario. And Dragon Rojo Jr. in 2023 is the true top guy of CMLL, the top champion, the ace of the company, as we all knew. And we think that it will lead to Templario and Dragon Rojo Jr. Maybe in a mask match in the future, like an Apuestas match. And then Micro, does that not just get that blood pumping thing?
Which blood? Like where? I don't know. Like, is it blood pumping because I'm angry?
Well, that's a possibility as well. Blood running cold, like glacier.
Well, you know, the thing about Dragon Rojo Jr. is like, he's an emotional guy, so you're probably gonna get like a really good, post match type of thing. And a lot of that whole mask match, I mean, it could be a great match, it could be like okay match, but the post match, a lot of people always remember those because, you know, that you see the emotion and the love that these guys have for their, you know, not just the business, but also their character, the mask and everything. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. And he's one of those guys that's going to definitely he'll probably be one of those guys that everybody will be like, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he was very emotional. I don't know what the match will look like because, I mean, Templario's out of this world. He's really great.
Oh, a great performer.
Yeah. But Dragon Rojo Jr. is really, I mean, he would have to like be able to like, it'd have to be True Templario just pulling out, you know, amazing stuff just to make Dragon Rojo Jr. look good. I'm pretty sure they might actually turn it into a 3-way match. Throw in Sobrano Jr. just for the fun of it.
Yeah, like that was the original match.
Yeah.
You know, Templario, Sobrano.
I think they should do it again.
Out of nowhere, Dragon Rojo Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's on his ACL.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's good for him that he gets a good payday on his way out. But you know, it's Lucha. He ain't on his way out. He's just transitioning to wrestling without a mask for the next 15, 20 years in CMLL.
And what about Stuka Jr.? I don't think we've talked about him. Like, since losing the mask, like,
his son did actually appear in CMLL, so he finally made it, like, a year later?
Yeah, like, he secured a future for his son. He got a big payday. He's part of Los Guerreros, Laguneros, main events.
He's done pretty well.
Yeah, I think he's really done really well as a top Rudo.
Yeah, it helped him. I mean, sometimes look at all the guys that have been masked wrestlers for their career, like Angel de Oro, Niebla Roja, and now you have Stuka Jr. They were masked wrestlers that were kind of stale, you know, mid-card guys for like a long time in CMLL. And, you know, they had their moments where they were really good. They dropped their mask and suddenly, like, it brings new personality to them. Chavez brothers are probably the best tag team in Mexico. And Stuka Jr. has turned into a pretty solid Rudo. You know, being part of the girls.
That match where he lost the mask was amazing, too.
Yeah.
Him versus Atlantis Jr. At Aniversario. I mean, that was like an epic moment. Like, a great match. He's totally sprungboarded into doing great things. You know, like you said, constantly in main events, you know, going, you know, put over Atlantis Jr. Like, Atlantis Jr. is going to be one of the top stars in the company for decades, you know, pretty much. So you're in a great spot if you're Stuka as well. Like, we're doing a great job as a Rudo as well.
I mean, as a technical, nothing was happening with him. He was just like another guy, another face.
Yeah, there's like 50 of people his level. Like, it's in CMLL.
Yeah, and 1 week he would be like, maybe like the middle of the pack, and then the next week he'd be like at the bottom of the pack. He never was like at the top, because it was always like, you know, he's not. And so I think Valiente they probably have to do something with him on it as well at some point, where he has a mask match, just because I think it helps these guys, like, it gives them the big, that big moment, because they've been around for so long with CMLL.
Yeah.
But it also gives them the big moment. Maybe it actually freshens them up as characters.
Starts a new era for these guys.
Yeah. We're seeing it like I said, those three guys that I mentioned, like, you know, they're all a lot, well, not really, Stupid Junior's a lot older, but, the Chavez brothers are young guys that, you know, they're gonna have a very good, long career ahead of them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, there's a ton of good talent. The thing with CMLL, even at their worst, they've always had a huge influx of great talent. They've also had a huge influx of terrible talent as well.
I think the pandemic era, that's where they kind of got really, really bad in terms of having a lot of talent. You know, those, like, what was it, 2020 to 2022 or so? Like, maybe last year. Like, last year kind of they started getting more talent back in. But there was like about a 2-year period where they were just like, they weren't bringing the Guadalajara guys as much. They were losing talent, and it looked pretty, like, bleak for a while. You know, just because there wasn't as much, like, those, you look at those Tuesday shows just to fill out 5 matches. Now they're back to doing 6 matches. But to fill out 5 matches, they were having like these really, really bad, Sunday, Saturday, everything else besides Friday. Even Friday, sometimes they would have like a really bad undercard match thrown in there. But like, at least now, like, we're seeing like them kind of like, they're like, oh, Zandokan Jr. is good. Let's bring him in a little more. Let's bring in these guys that worked, you know, the school tournament, have them go to Puebla for a show, and, you know, maybe bring them in for Mexico City. That Rudo trio that's in Guadalajara, they've been bringing them in for the weekends. So they're starting to look a little bit better, although you still have some, like, really bad. That Guadalajara regular group that they have with Esfinge, Star Black, and who's the other guy? God, who's the other guy with that group?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that group.
Yeah, them, of course.
Yeah, the third guy.
Fans of...
No. And then Volador Jr.'s group really fizzled. I don't know what that was all about. They should have, I can't believe Volador Jr. should have done some better scouting.
You know, I think, like you're saying with the pandemic, you know, shortening their schedule of guys.
They were bringing a lot of guys in.
Yeah, I think that's what really, I guess, made them readjust, like, their accounts, their perspective on how they're gonna book people from now on, where maybe people are, you know, earning their spot now, as opposed to, like, it's my turn, and it's turn for this guy's turn, so this guy's on Tuesday, he's gonna be on Friday in 2 weeks. You know, that's kind of like how they used to schedule. Mm-hmm. This guy's based on shifts of people, and people who got along, people from certain regions would be booked together. Now it's more, I think it's more merit based now, but you also see people get booked, I guess, like related or like sons, and they make it onto shows, but, you know, I guess it's less expensive also when you're dealing with younger people.
Yeah, because they're barely learning, and, you know, the business, so they're not really asking for much right now. I think the one good thing is Panzerita del Ring Junior's finally moved up, which, you know, that's the one positive.
Yeah, maybe that doesn't even happen if there's no pandemic.
Yeah.
Well, he's amazing, so that is one good thing. We've also seen them, you know, during this time, it's like, you know, Místico came back under his regular gimmick, you know, with, you know, from Caristico to now it's just like randomly one day he shows up and is like, hey, I'm Místico again. That pretty much. The other guy left, so.
Isn't that like the biggest, like, turnaround for them? Like Místico being like Místico again?
Yeah, that's kind of where you can point to where things really started to actually turn around, was like right around that era where, like, they were down in the dumps, and then, like, Místico, you got a real main star, and he's done great work this year, too. He's another guy, like, in every 6-man tag, he's always bringing it. The crowd loves him, you know, or hates him, depending on which.
Yeah, then they went with the formula of having his top rivals, obviously Ultimo Guerrero being here already, and then bringing back Averno.
That's another one they brought back.
Yeah, so they had that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And they had some great stuff in Japan, too. Like, he's been a great worker this year. Zushis came back.
Something we thought was going to happen, like, what, before the pandemic?
Yeah, we had hoped anyway. It's like, she's like the top woman at CMLL, and then she leaves, and it's like she disappears forever. Pretty much like AAA's not there. But
that's
like
so
now,
weird.
Yeah, it was weird. What was she thinking?
I think maybe she thought WWE was gonna call her.
Well, she was in that tournament, remember? The Mae Young, Classic? She was there. Io Shirai or something in that tournament?
Yeah. I think it was this one girl that was in AEW, but, yeah, I saw the match. It was not good.
Yeah, she didn't leave her best efforts, to say the least, her best, view for anybody. She didn't sign.
It kind of seemed like she was out of wrestling for a bit just because there was nothing going on with her. She wasn't even like a regular on indie shows. Like you just hear like on one indie show and then that was it. Like, oh, she's working the Arena Lopez Mateos, AULL show on a Saturday. Like, cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Wrestling Candy Swing or some shit, some random name like that.
I literally think you or anyone listening to the show, if you were in that arena, you could walk in and just have a match on a show like that. Like if you so felt like it.
Yeah. But it kind of seemed like she wasn't doing anything. I was like, and then suddenly she get back in CMLL, which, you know, I think that was like that doesn't happen if Dallas. I think if Dallas stays, that doesn't happen. I have a weird feeling that probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, her leaving, they needed to I think their thinking was we need to bring a positive, spin to that whole story. And losing Casas you can't replace. I mean, you're basically like, oh, what do we, only way you can replace them is just improve, like, you know, elevating, you know, the younger guys or improving matches of the guys. But when Dallas left, you know, everyone's, oh, they lost Dallas. That's a big deal because she was basically booked as the main female in CMLL for so long. And so when she left, you had to bring somebody back that the fans would be happy with, and, you know, Zeuxis was the right person to bring in.
And the division has taken a step up in general. Remember on that same show with the Atlantis Jr. and Super Junior match, you had like Haruchita and Reina Isis have like a great match that, you know, for the mask versus mask that nobody would have expected, like Reina Isis of all people to have. Haruchita is a well-respected wrestler, you know, for good reason, but Isis like came in, delivered huge.
I thought that was a match of the year.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say it. Like that was one of the best matches all year, really. Like I think a lot of people like that even better than the actual main event. Overall they had there. So just great stuff. Her coming back is great. And they've done a lot of things right. It's just, the thing is, I feel like we're in that same point now that we were in before, where it's like we're talking to brick walls at the moment. Because it's like, if they just changed how their shows aired and made it more accessible, it actually put a hint of caring, I think they could be a great, like, on the rise company to a lot of, even foreigners, like people in America and, you know, all over the world if they wanted to be, but I just don't think they care, like, enough to even do stuff like that.
Like, even, like, the other stuff, you know, we don't want to watch Sunday or Saturday or Tuesday or Monday.
None
of those other shows. But the fact that you could have access to watching those, that'd be kind of cool. Like, cause every once in a while, like Arena Coliseo will have like a really good, Virus versus, you know, Hechicero or something. Like, they'll just bust out some random really good matchup that you want to see. Yeah. But you don't have access to watching it unless somebody like films it with the handheld. With their phone or whatever.
Hey, Fredo, remember when they did the Saturday shows? They were like, we're doing, you know, like a Lucha Retro or whatever. It's like, we need to go even further back in the past.
But remember, they actually announced they were doing Hechicero versus, I can't remember who, it might have been Guerrero Maya Jr. or some good, like it was a good singles match that hadn't happened before. And everybody's really looking forward to watching it. And it was like the one show that they decided not to air. That pissed me off. But the retro thing was really weird. But it actually made it, I think they had like maybe 4 or 5 episodes that aired. Yeah. Because it was on Fox Sports, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, Tirantes was like commentary, right?
Yeah.
This is another stuff, blast from the past here. If you remember it, you're a true Lucha fan.
Yeah.
I would say. Just before we get on out of here, I wanted to bring up a couple of notes. I had CML right now, that Lucha in general. Titan going to Japan for Best of Super Juniors. He's also there often as part of Los Ingobernables de Japón. You know, he's kind of like the junior guy. Hiromu's doing title stuff, so they kind of have him teaming with Bushi sometimes, but he's going to be in the tournament. And the tournament, it's like they didn't like bring anybody from CML like Soberano or whatever, like natural for that. I don't know why, to be honest, but, Titan's great. That's, no matter what year you listen to Lucha Talk yet, even if we're around, Titan, yeah. If we're around 10 years from now, you'll know that everybody still loves him. Pretty much, he's still awesome. Yeah. But he'll get like 3 wins probably in the tournament.
I like how we're really hyping him up and like, oh, he'll get his 3 wins and then lose in
Yeah, he'll lose all of his matches, pretty much, except for 2 or 3. But at least he's there. You know, they kind of have him doing stuff as like an undercard junior tag guy. It's CMLL. He's still great when he's around. There's no question about that. But he's going there. Micro, I'll ask you real quick, what do you think of the future for New Japan CMLL? Will CMLL ever get more leeway in this relationship?
I do. And that leeway being in the form of more Fantastica Mania shows.
Oh, well, they love those. So that'll be a big win for them, going in there. Maybe they can last like a whole month of the tour, for one. This year's Fantastica Mania was really good, by the way, too. There was a lot of cool stuff on there.
Yeah, a lot of good matches, and a lot of good moments. I think Ray Kometa is a standout guy for them this year.
Yeah, great worker. Probably the most random match possible getting made. This is going to happen in just a couple weeks, by the way, if you want to check it out. I mean, this has to be something she never could have expected. But New Japan Strong, like the U.S. version of their shows, they're doing this like weird women's tournament for this Strong women's title. And Stephanie Vaquer will face Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks in a match. With the winner going on to the final of the tournament. Probably an unbelievable moment for her. Very random, but cool thing there. Do you think they'll do anything more with the CMLL people? On that same show too, Virus and Cavernario are in a match. It's like Zack Sabre Jr. and Bad Dude Tito. Fredo, does that get your blood pumping? Are you ready for the Bad Dude?
I've seen that guy wrestle since he was a kid, man.
Yeah, I mean, you are a Bad Dude Tito historian.
Yeah, he's somebody I've seen, like, cause he's from the area, so yeah. I guess I am excited.
He's
pretty good. He's good.
Yeah, in all seriousness. And Zack versus Virus is going to be a great thing.
Oh, yeah.
But Vaquer versus Moné is going to be like a wild match.
Well, that should be interesting what happens with Vaquer, because, I mean, that might put her on the map. You know, because like we said, CMLL, what happens in CMLL kind of stays in CMLL. You know what I mean? But like, if she looks impressive, that might actually lead to something better for her. Like, you know, she might actually end up in somebody else's radar, like the WWE or AEW or even New Japan with the women and all that, or some other women's promotion where Stardom.
Yeah, that's kind of like the New Japan branch of Joshi. That's with Bushiroad owning it. But huge potential moment. Micro, you think she could deliver big, impress some people and get Sasha?
If I had to choose someone from CMLL to have in this match, I would choose her. Me too. I agree. She's the best luchadora that CMLL has at the moment. So I think, she's going to get attention from this match, and I think it will lead on to bigger things for her, and possibly that means Stardom, booking there.
She's been to Japan for like Ice Ribbon and these other promotions as well. But Stardom, you're getting a way bigger paycheck because they're under Bushiroad's deal. They did a show with like 5,000 people or something last month. So you can see her getting a big push for there. And she's like, I agree with you, Micro. She's probably the best luchadora. Zuchi's she's still good and all, but finding her way back. I like Harachita as well, but I would take her over her if I did. So I think it was a good pick. And great to see her too, representing Chile, and a great match too. There. Then 2 more things real quick. I mentioned on the pre-show, or before the show off the air, that we have to announce it to all the people. EO Dr. Wagner Jr., Fredo, this is a guy you've long said that was probably the best wrestler in Mexico for most of his career. Would you agree with that?
I said he was the future of Lucha Libre.
Yeah, he was the one you hit for.
He's gonna bring the boom back.
Yes, Lucha Boom was maybe where he wrestled at that time.
Yeah.
But he's in Noah, and he's like the national champion. That's kind of like the Intercontinental title, right, for them. And he's had a great run. A lot of people have really said great things about him. He just had a match the other day in Sumo Hall. He wrestled this guy, Hideki Suzuki, who's like this technical, guy. And he worked really well there, has done a lot of different things. And I want to shout out Cubs for making a great point that his dad really like came into his own in Japan. That's where he was known more first in terms of like being a great worldwide wrestler.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where we're seeing the same thing with his son here in this thing. Cause, I always say when he was in Mexico, I think, I don't want to speak for y'all, but I didn't think he was that great at all, to be honest. But he's done a great job in Japan, so, I don't know if you guys or Micro, you've seen any of his Noah stuff, like, with the title, but he's actually had some pretty good matches, so I wanted to let everybody know about that.
No, but.
And you still won't.
No. I never really saw like the big potential in him, so.
No, me.
This is kind of like shocking to see him develop into this.
He had that one match that was kind of good in Elite, didn't he? He had one, and it might have not been in Arena Mexico. I think he joined when it was in the Independent, but it wasn't like this mind blowing performance that turned him into like the biggest star.
The guy that's getting like more attention is Galeno del Mal.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about him.
He's a GLEAT.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the top promotion in Japan, of course, GLEAT. But yeah, he's there. GLEAT's a weird company. Kashima runs it. Or no, he doesn't run it, but he's like the booker of it. So he's like, they bring in all these random luchador people, like, Black Generation was there, like they had everybody. And it's
Bandito?
Like, yeah, Bandito started there. Yeah, Bandito was there as well. Yeah, he was in a title match, on there with, Flamita. They did a thing last month. Yeah, but they've had everybody. They're an interesting company, but it's interesting to see how much Lucha Libre is crossing over to Japan in terms of like these companies bringing people over. I was telling you, I think Fredo thought I was lying at first, but Noah brought in Lancelot of all people, on their back, like wherever he's been for the last 8 years or whatever since he was last in AAA, on there. They had like Dragon Bane and Alpha Wolf is there. You get a lot of Lucha guys in CML. In Noah, I know that like Nosawa had a big run in there and he's like a big fan of Lucha Libre. Diamante is a big deal in Dragon Gate right now.
Diamante is really good.
Yeah, he's good. I always remember when he was in Busca de.
Yeah, we called it like when we first saw him, like this guy has something.
Yeah, and he's really shown out. Unlike Komander Jr., we didn't see it in, but it's happened somehow. Many people say, and Diamante, great base. They're doing a deal with him where they might be teasing like a mass versus mass match, him versus Ultimo Dragon. Like, so that could be something you see maybe even in Mexico. They might do a show like what his Ultimo Fiesta or whatever, Dragon Mania shows. That could be something to look out for. They're doing a lot of that there. So Lucha Libre really expanded to all these different companies. It's good that we got to talk about so much of them. Even in America, big companies, indie companies, we kind of hit a little bit of everything. So hopefully everybody enjoyed it out there. It's really fun to be back. I really had a lot of love talking to you guys for it again. We got it at a good time. I'll throw it to you guys one more time. Micro, do you have anything to say? Any last words for the fans out there?
It feels like we barely touched the surface on CMLL and AAA. I'd like to get back into both of them more in depth in the future. So if any listeners have like any questions about either one of them or something we can debate, please let us know.
Yeah, any questions will always be answered on the show. This is the fans show for the Lucha Libre fans out there. So we'll talk about anything really. There's so much that's gone on. It took us 2 years to get back. Unfortunately we couldn't cover everything in depth, but we got a little bit of everything. As time gets along, I think we'll be able to do more. Like I said, I'm eyeing that TripleMania Tijuana show. I'm hoping we can do maybe a special show just covering that show in depth, and we'll really be rolling by then. But that's still a couple months away, so hopefully we can do some fun stuff in the months between, but we will be back then. Fredo, do you have anything to say to the folks out there?
Well, it's great to be back again. Like you said, 2 years away from doing this was a long time. I mean, we missed a lot. Yeah, it would have been cool, like, if we could have kept going. But, like you were saying, it kind of got a little bit weird the way the schedule thing was for the shows. And, obviously also life kind of got in the way of this. We were doing with other stuff. And, obviously being shut, what was it, like about a year and a half or so, not being able to do anything really. The weird thing is, like, you would have thought a lot of people would have been doing a lot of podcasts at that time because you had a lot of free time because you couldn't go anywhere. But, unfortunately it's kind of weird because when it first started, I thought, okay, there's more time to do podcasts, but hey, guess what? There's not a lot of wrestling because, early on CML wasn't doing a lot. Then, Later on, they just changed the whole schedule. AAA, the same thing. They, the way their shows are, posted, it's kind of a little more confusing. But it's great, like that we're back to doing this. We should be able to have more to talk about. I really look forward to talking about like the bigger shows more than anything else, because those are the ones that we're all looking forward to. Especially even like promotions, they don't really give a crap about what's going on the weekly basis on their own shows themselves. I think if we focus on that and maybe just topics, I think that would be fun for the fans. And hopefully, like Michael said, if you guys have something that you want us to talk about, discuss, send it in. We'll talk about it. It could be anything, as long as it's lucha related. We'll have fun talking about it. It's always fun talking about lucha with other people that like Lucha Libre also.
Yeah, I totally agree. So hopefully everybody has good things to say. Like I said, when I posted the thing on Twitter, Micro retweeted and everything, and we got a lot of good reaction to it. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the show and continues to check us out, and we'll grow more. Like you said, we're just scratching the surface. We're just coming back, getting our feet wet a little bit back in the Lucha Libre game. One thing I will say too, this is like a brand new addition to this new era of Lucha Talk, so to speak. Something I want to do more of in the future. If you are a fan of Lucha Libre, and you're a fan of Lucha Libre, maybe not just in Mexico, but other Latin American countries, I would love if y'all sent us a match, or like matches to see, and that's something I'd like to spotlight at least once a month, like a match for a different place. And I'm not saying like we're gonna suddenly like take over the game and become the number one show in the whole world or anything, but I would like to give a little bit more spotlight. If anybody out there has any matches that they want spotlighted, message me about it, and I'll watch it and I'll talk about it. I'll get around to it eventually for sure, but at least once a month I'll try to have a different match on here, because I want every country represented, not just Mexico, even though that's like the main, the homestead for Lucha Libre. But that's something we'll see in the future. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the show. Like I said, we're everywhere. I know I did the thing where it's like everywhere podcasts are heard or whatever back in the old days, but I guess we're just like, do people really listen to podcasts in different places anymore? It's mainly like the Apple thing or the Spotify and things like that. But wherever you listen to stuff at, we're there. We're on the cagematch.net front page too. That took a lot of maneuvering to make work, but somehow I was able to do it. And hopefully wherever you see the show at, hopefully you enjoy it, and hopefully you let us know what you think, and hopefully you enjoy watching Lucha Libre more whenever you can. So thank you guys. It's so good to be back on Lucha Talk for everybody. Until next time, adios.